What's happening, people? And welcome back to another episode of Park Lane Podcast, episode number 74, which is sponsored by Manscaped. If you don't know who Manscaped are, head over to manscaped.com and use the code ParkLanePod and you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. They're a male grooming company who offer tremendous products, which I myself was gifted some and have tried them out myself, and they're absolutely fantastic. Anything from ear, nose, trimmers down to, your private area trimmers. So, if that's what you're into, or if that's what your partner's into, then head over to manscaped.com, use the code ParkLanePod and get 20% off plus free shipping. Oh, Harry, how you doing?
Very good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, good, mate. I've been outside in the sort of mild sunshine, and I'm feeling a bit hyper today, so all good. Callum, you well?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I will literally try and keep a straight face when you go through the Manscaped thing each week. I will one day just sit there so seldom and calm as if just say, yep, I've heard it all before, now we are peaceful. But yeah, no, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Just think the weekend's finally catching up with me. Let's put it this way, all the excitement went after yesterday.
Yeah, no, I get that. Look, there's nothing wrong with, keeping yourself tidy downstairs. And then that's all I'll end on. Don't want to, bend small minds and, and all that. But anyway, let's talk about yesterday's game. Tottenham 3, Crystal Palace 1. Actually, do you know what? Before we do that, let's talk to the people who are watching us in the chat. So Barney is here. He was first actually in the chat today saying evening to you all. Jay is said evening. Harry, evening. Barney. Thomas is in. Has said evening. Evening to you all, people. And Johnny is in saying evening, Jay. And the panel. Also, those of you that listened on any kind of podcast platform, you're doing amazing work. You're listening all the way through. I absolutely love everybody that listens on podcast platforms. But while you're here, press pause right now. Go over to YouTube, search Park Lane Podcast, and click subscribe. All of you who are watching right now at the end of this show, go over to Spotify, go over to Apple Music, go over to wherever you get your podcast from, and listen to the show on there, and also give us a follow and leave us a 5-star review. Anyway, let's move on, as I was saying, to Spurs 3, Palace 1. H, I want to talk to you quickly about the lineups, because the lineups, we were hearing during the week, there was going to be no Pedro Porro still, no Richarlison. So I'll just run through the lineups for those that kind of missed the game or anything like that. We had Vicario in goal, Emerson Royale right back, Romero and Van de Ven at centre back, and Udogie at left back. In midfield we have Bissouma, Maddison and Bentancur, and as a 3 up front we had Timo Werner, Kulusevski and Heung-min Son. What did you make of that lineup, Harry?
Obviously, I was happy with it. For me, there's no surprise that Udogie came back in. We knew that Richarlison's obviously out for 2 or 3 weeks, so I think that's the front three we all kind of expected to see, because Brennan Johnson, clear his impact is greater off the bench. Why, I don't know, but he seems to be good off the bench, but hasn't had a lot of starts. So again, maybe that's harsh to say, but for me, the main surprise and maybe a bit disappointing, even looking back on it now, is that Sarr was on the bench, but at the same time, he's played a lot of minutes in a short period of time. If you look at that for a young player, and I think a lot of teams have made that mistake of, because the youngster's so good and impresses so quickly. I think we've done it with Tanganga, to be honest with you. We ended up relying on him and playing him too much to the point where he got injured and was never the same player instead. So I think maybe a few lessons learned in that case. So I think we lacked, we'll get onto it in the first half, I think we lacked what Sarr brings, the energy, box-to-box midfielder. But ultimately we won, so that's all that matters. So the team couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Definitely. And Callum, that kind of like moves us on to that part, because when I was just reading that midfield out then, I thought this is probably the best midfield 3 that we've got. But then Harry's talking about Pape Matar Sarr, and I think actually, to be fair, the way he's performed, he probably fits into that instead of Rodrigo Bentancur at the moment. So what we have in midfield is fantastic. Did you think that he picked the right midfield 3 to start the game?
Well, I think it's the midfield 3 we've been all calling out for to play together for the last 8 months since Ange first came in. And yesterday was probably the right choice for it, based on obviously after Ange's press conference saying that Sarr does have an injury that he's been nursing ever since the start of January, since AFCON, and everyone wanted Bentancur and Basuma, and then Maddison being the most advanced one. But what we've got to realise is that all three of them players have had extended injury bouts or bad loss of form as well. So even though we go, oh, yay, we've got our three midfielders that we want, that's the first time they've properly played together for any prolonged period of time. So it's definitely one of them where we was all happy to see it, but maybe the application still isn't there entirely. But H probably saw more than me and you did on our streams, where H being at the stadium, you probably know how it was and how bad it was accordingly.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because, if you look at that midfield three and you say, right, that's on paper, Basuma, Bentancur, Maddison, that's the best midfield three we have on paper. And then you say, oh, but then they didn't really flow well together, right? That's what I felt. And then you think Will Sarr's played well and other players like that. I'm going to give it to Højbjerg, actually. When he came on, I thought he looked sharp. I thought he looked good when he came on. Okay, the game was pretty much done at that point, but I thought he looked good and he looked, ready to go. But I think what we've had is we have had a big injury issue this season, but what we've also had is like uninterrupted injuries. And by that, I just mean like we've had players who haven't been able to settle in with other players. So like we haven't had a chance really for Basuma, Bentancur and Maddison to all play well together. I still think Maddison, is a bit wary of the injury that he did get and still isn't playing at his full capacity, to be honest. But, only time will tell. Come to a few comments quickly, because poor Jay has said, would it be possible if the FIFA stream gets postponed? Can I be told on here or either on TikTok? Yes, Jay, you can. I do apologise. Unfortunately, Winnie wasn't very well. It was a last-minute thing, and I do apologise to that. So anybody that was waiting to watch it or anything like that, I am very sorry, but these things happen, and we'll do our best. We won't be back this week because Winnie's still a bit under the weather, but we'll be back on the Tuesday the 12th, which is the following week, and we'll be carrying on. And hopefully by then I've got a couple of extra players who will play in our side. Jay, you're having bad luck because you also said, as soon as you publish this on YouTube, I write comments, but they all must be deleted. Unless somebody's logging into deleting them.
I have that issue.
Do you?
Yeah, well, once it's published, any comments that were made throughout seem to disappear. But I don't know why.
Right.
It's only been a recent issue.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So apologies about that, but I'm not deleting any. But anyway, there's a lot of chat going on. We'll get to a lot of you soon. Harry, I'll come back to you because you mentioned it earlier. I wrote nothing, no notes for the first half, absolutely nothing. I wrote nothing on my phone, and I was pretty annoyed. It got to a point, right? So at the start of this season, I was watching Spurs, and I was thinking, this feels good to watch Spurs again. I didn't go into games worrying and like thinking we're going to, struggle today. All of a sudden, recently, I have kind of felt like that, and watching that first half made me also feel like that. So, why do you think that is now at the moment, Harry?
It's a good question. I think that it's a mix of that. We've had a lot of players that are injured. And I was looking the other day, and the amount of games we've actually lost, considering how we played and how we started the season, it is such a shame. And I'm the same as you. I spent my majority of Friday evening and Saturday morning looking at whether Eze would be fit to make the game or not, because I think that would make a big difference. I was worried about that. So yeah, it wasn't comfortable. And I think that first half, showed that in terms of Palace sitting behind the ball, but I don't really think Palace had to work in the first half. You go, okay, sometimes it's frustrating to break a team down, but I was sitting there at half time going, nah, at this moment in time, we can't break it down. I think second half, we moved the ball quick again, we got onto and looked a lot better, which we didn't do against Wolves, I don't think, or for not a sustained, prolonged period. So, yeah, I don't really know why it is, but we now go into that game with that extra fear. I think the loss against Wolves is a big one for me, because in terms of we had all the players back and the performance was poor, the result was poor, and nobody really expects us to lose it. There's questions whether Wolves would come here and get the point if they got it right, but they come here and won. So that was disappointing, but second half was good, which we'll get on to.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll get onto that now, actually, Callum. So, second half, 59 minutes in, the worst possible thing happens, especially against a side like Crystal Palace, who set up. We have a real problem, and we're going to talk about this later. A real problem defending low blocks, or attacking, I should say, low blocks. And that's effectively what Crystal Palace did the entirety of the first half. And when they went 1-0 up in the 59th minute, I did really, really think that was going to be it for Spurs. But it was quite a nice free kick, if I do say so myself. Like a little bit of a training ground routine. They had two players to the side of the wall. Vicario, I think, needs to do better in terms of A, his positioning, and B, organising the wall slightly better, because there should have been, that should have been sorted. But anyway, everybody knew what was going to happen. Eze gets the ball, the players move out the way, and he pings it into the far corner. Do you think it was a good free kick?
Yeah, I definitely think it was a good free kick. But if we just roll it back, say 7 days to when we was all sitting here last week, and we all said that the good chance of Palace scoring was going to be from a set piece, whether it be from a free kick, a penalty, a corner, all of that stuff. So the one thing that Spurs should have been trying not to do, we did do. We gave away a really silly position to give it away in. And yeah, if you're a cynical person, Bentancur did well. We stopped an attack. There was probably more that we could have done to stop it in the build-up, or even after that. It would have just been let him go for on goal and see if he took a shot or not. But the whole thing where, like what you both said, leading into the first half, into the second half, we lacked the ideas again that we had against Wolves. And realistically, Palace actually played well. They marshalled us well. They closed off any outlet which we did try to have. And for them to get that free kick was probably what they deserved, I would say. Eze was probably about 60 or 70% fit, and he ran the show for them quite a lot of the time. He was the focal point. And I think there was a really nice point at the end of the game when you had Brandon Austin, Skip, and Son all going over to him. So I was hoping they was all being agents trying to go to Eze. Right, come over to Spurs this summer. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You've already performed at the stadium. Now you've got to do it everywhere else for us and all that. But no, it was a bit of a kick in the teeth, because definitely we was in the ascendancy for, I would say, about 10 minutes up to that point. Then it has started going stagnant, and once again we just fell for the same old tricks, and your zonal marking and your set piece practice that we thought would be worked on this week just went out the window against 3 weeks of conceding silly goals. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you can sit and praise, free kicks and other things like that. But as you say, like, we shouldn't be giving fouls away there at all.
It's poor game management. It's poor game management. These are professionals. They should know how to manage a game. And yesterday we didn't, up until about 70th minute.
Yeah, but, look, I don't know what it is about second halves, right? Because we always tend to come out in second halves with a bit more kind of fire up our arse. But we seemed in this game to only do it for about 5 minutes and then kind of give up on that idea again. But Harry, the equaliser did come, and it was Brennan Johnson who kind of made that happen. I thought when he came on, he was all right. Like, didn't do anything special, but that kind of moment was brilliant, because there was a good bit of skill from Brennan Johnson, and then there was just the determination. And, it happened to be a Palace player kind of slipped, and then he kind of ricochet came off Brennan Johnson, but he didn't stop fighting. And, then he just plays the ball across, and Timo Werner slots it in, which was nice to see. But what did you make of Brennan Johnson when he came on?
Johnson done something that no other Spurs player done in those 70 minutes, and that was press Palace and force a mistake. He looked at Anderson and went, you've just come back from an injury, you're not going to be 100%. He'd already spent too long on the ball. He'd gone round in circles and put himself in a corner. Johnson used his brain to say it, and then that instinct to go and press and win the ball back, done really well. And when I thought, and I let out a huge sigh at the stadium because I thought we lost it when that Palace player, I think it was Jefferson Lerma, correct me if I'm wrong, who comes in and I thought pinched him. He went right past him. So completely missed it. Johnson, very cool, calm and composed. So ultimately, there's a lot of questions, a lot of, I think, abuse and unfair abuse towards Brennan Johnson. Ultimately, he's having that impact with assists. Did he, apart from the 2 assists he got, did he stand out to me? No, but at the end of the day, football is a results-based business. Tottenham went out there and got the result. Johnson's a key part of the comeback, getting 2 assists. But that moment for him is probably the best we've seen in a Spurs shirt.
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting, isn't it? Because that phrase that you said, where it was like, apart from the 2 assists that he got, he didn't do a lot else. But like,
as a greedy, doesn't
it? Yeah, as a ball player, that's all you want, really, isn't it? But I do get what you mean.
He actually did miss an open goal, didn't he, as well, where a shot was pulled or a cross was pulled across goal, and it was the spitting image of the one that he scored a couple of weeks ago. Who was it against?
Yeah,
was it
Werner.
And literally, instead of putting it into the net,
I think it's Brentford.
But yeah, it was either Brentford or Brighton or something like that, and he shot it straight up in the air that time. So it just shows there is still a young player there. But to his credit, he did what we needed, and it's what we all said last week. If you're going to have a low block, you've got to play around the block. You don't try and play into the block compared to what Kulusevski, Son, and I think Werner, to the lesser extent, wasn't in the second half. I think he was the most likely outlet. It was just, I think, Luke, I texted you yesterday just saying that he was so devoid of confidence that if you wanted someone on the ball at that time when he went towards Johnson, it wasn't Werner. It wasn't him.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to talk about Timo Werner once we get to the end of this game, because there is a lot I want to talk about him. But, once again, Callum, after we, had scored, we then kept going. And in the 80th minute, we went 2-1 up. Really quick throw and good quick thinking to James Maddison, who just kind of hoofed it into the box. And I didn't even know or understand why Kuti was there, but he was. And he got his big head on it, and the ball goes in the back of the net. And at that point, you're thinking, how on earth have we smash and grab this? Because we didn't deserve it, to be quite honest. But it's what you love to see. And put us 2-1 up.
Yeah, it was one of them where if you got someone like Romero who, no matter if you tell him that he's a centre-back, if he's playing a back 3 or a back 2, he ain't being shackled. You ain't leaving him in there. If you tell him, right, you're staying right back on that line with Vicario, he's still going to be off somewhere. And this was one of them great opportunities where Ange likes his defensive line to push forward, to have an impact. And because he's one of the tallest players we've got, and he does have a belter of a header on him, he was able to get in there. And it was quick thinking from us to make the quick throw in, to get fast movement on it, because it's the whole thing that we lacked for so long. And to actually have that commitment to do it, that's what you want from one of your vice captains, someone who's going to lead from the front, because there's only so much he can do from the back completely. And with him stepping up, it's what we did need. We needed that impact change, and you could already see that Palace were a little bit shocked that we was 1-1 with them, and then to get them to go 2-1 down, they was falling apart. They gave a good game, but they was just tired. They were not in a position to do anything, and for it to actually go the way that it did, Joel Ward started getting pulled apart, just showing his age. Anderson, like Harry said, was showing his injury early on. Mitchell, I thought, had a good game for Palace at left back, but he started getting cut inside now. And when you do have that sort of overload on a block, that when it does finally fall apart, then the floodgates usually do open. There's a lot more gaps, and you could see the Palace were trying to counteract Spurs. They was kind to try and counterbalance it, and as soon as you start pressing out, you start conceding goals, and that's where you start getting people like QT stepping up, and where he does appear in that position, because he had no right to be there at all. He should never have been allowed to do that, and Johnson to allow him to get in there He had no right. He shouldn't have been there at all, mate.
But he was, and he scored. And I think you're right. I think at that point, like, Palace's game plan's out the window because, as I said to you earlier, it was a low block. It was pretty much similar to Wolves. It was get the ball, try and counter if possible, or nick something, against a run of play, which they did. And then when they find themselves 2-1 down, they find it really difficult. And what was good to see, Harry, and which is good to see with this team and Ange Postecoglou, is we don't stop there at that point, right? Mm-hmm. Under a Conte or a Mourinho or whoever it might be, you go 2-1 and you just hold on. Let's just take that. Let's just sit back. Let's soak it up and let's defend it. And we never could do that. And a little bit lucky with that, but late on in the game, 87th minute, the ball ricochets through to Heung-min Son, who did what Timo Werner couldn't do and showed him exactly how you score one-on-one and slotted it into the far corner. And it was good to see. Son looked really, really, really happy and he looked really, really passionate about this football club.
Yeah, if I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think Ange Postecoglou, I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think Ange Postecoglou done what he would usually do. I think he looked at that. He looked at the personnel that Palace had on the pitch and went, come out and play us and there'd be gaps. Because if you look back at where that space he got and ultimately the goal came from was Palace trying to go forward. Didn't last very long, didn't have the ball at all, but they were pushing up the pitch. There's one point where all the players were in our half, and that's where the Son goal comes from, because he's actually in his own half, therefore he's not offside, and that's why he gets the ridiculous space. So I think Ange kind of got that right, because in terms of, if we hadn't have done that, I think we would have stayed at 2-1, and you never know with us, if we give away a set piece, it could be 2-2. Because Palace just didn't have the personnel on the pitch due to injuries, due to selection on the bench, and due to changes that were made, bringing off Eze, etc. They just had a really, really defensive team, a back five, 4 defensive midfielders. They just didn't have the personnel. Mateta was tired, but had used their substitution windows. Edouard had just come on. He looked a bit lost. But with Son, in terms of one-on-one finishing, for me, he's the closest you can get to Harry Kane. And I saw someone mention it, I'm going to take credit for that on social media, and they're absolutely spot on. Son, in terms of one-on-one finishing, is excellent. And that's what gives me a little bit of hope about Timo Werner, whether he stays or not, that he can look at someone like Son and learn that. I don't look at Werner and go, you're going to score 20, 25 goals a season, but there's nothing wrong with that for me. I look at Werner and go, you're a good player to impact. You offer something different in behind. Because, I don't know, as a defender myself, I out of anyone in that Spurs attack, exclude Son, forget Son a minute, in that Spurs attack, I'd be most worried about Werner, because you don't know which way he's going. With Kulusevski, you know what he's doing. Richarlison, you know what he's doing. Johnson, you can pretty much guess what he's doing. Not a lot most of the time, unless we're going on a quick counter-attack. So you kind of guess that. But Son, very nice finish.
Yeah, I do agree with you, actually, about Timo Werner. He can use both feet, but, we will get on to him literally.
He's got to score that chance, though. I love him, but he's got to score that chance.
he's got to do something, because he's got to do better than what he's done. But the game did end 3-1. We did run out winners, and it was a vital 3 points, especially with Aston Villa picking up a late winner against Luton, annoyingly. But that the score predictions that we all put in, Dave unfortunately did not get in an entry, so everybody gets 1 point apart from me, who got a correct score of 3-1 Spurs.
Shit.
Damn it.
I forgot that. This, and Dave has now dropped below Harry due to getting 0 points and having a no score. Callum is only 2 points behind Dave now with 15. Dave on 17, Harry on 18. Winnie got a point, so he's on 22. But I'm now 5 points clear with 27 points. Not that I'm smiling behind those graphics.
Do you remember I said to you on last week's show when I was stuck between going with 3-2 or 3-1? Yeah. And I said that now you've gone for 3-1, it will be 3-1. There you go. So.
I was literally hoping that Son didn't score that chance just to get some bloody points, just to take me off that epoxy bomb, because I knew that whenever I looked at it, I had a look at the FPL league just in the background, and I knew that I'd already done crap on that, let alone the score predictor as well. But could I just on that Son goal quickly?
Yeah.
The way that it was triggered was by our guys actually pressing, and that's the thing. And obviously Johnson went to make that run, didn't he? Udogie picks it up, then passes it off to Johnson. Johnson's trying to press forward, gets tackled by the Palace player, and it was a little bit of a fortunate fall for Son, but that Son, having scored goals like that. Do you remember the game when he played against Burnley a couple of seasons ago when he ran all the way from our half all the way through about 7 players? It's one of them where if you're a Palace defender, I think it was Richards who was chasing him. You got to take the choice. Do you just hack Son down and just take one for the team and think about the consequences later? Or do you try and keep him on your near side to hopefully not get there? And Richards just didn't do nothing for Palace. He chased him. It was kind of like seeing Emerson Royale last weekend against Gomez. Literally tracked him, and then just got left in the dust. It's one of them where if Son slips or does something differently, then Richards will get him. But Son just had something about him. And once again, it was Johnson getting the assist to give him 2 for it. And I think Johnson's got 6 assists now, so that puts him level on terms with a lot of other big players in the Premier League, including Odegaard. I think it was De Bruyne before today as well. I'm sure Saka or Martinelli were in there as well. So a lot of rival fans can stick it where the sun don't shine in regards to that. Because at the end of the day, Johnson's young. He's 22 or 23, so he is doing some stuff. He is having an impact. It's just when you come with a £50 million price tag that you kind of have to hope for it. And remember, everyone wanted Son sold after the first season. He wanted to go, didn't he? And Pochettino had to go, no, calm down. You'll get you. Because I think Son still only got about 12 goals in the first season, maybe even less than that. He had to develop, and that's what Johnson has to do as well. And if them two are as close as they are saying in the post-match interviews, then you have got potential there for something. You know, I've slaughtered Johnson at times this year. I'm not going to lie and say that I've been loving everything he does, because I don't. But he's a young player who can develop, and having Son showing him how to lead the way, hopefully Johnson picks it up, and maybe even Werner learns how to do the one-on-one shooting as well from Son, and we might get there with some positive squad players as well.
Yeah, definitely, because let's talk about that Werner miss. So, for those of you that, I don't know, live under a rock and don't watch any football, but yet still tune into us, Timo Werner was one-on-one, as good a one-on-one as he's had, and he's had a couple already since he's been with us. He decided to try and go around the goalkeeper, and I think if you try and go around the goalkeeper, you have to go around the goalkeeper. And, I'm going to say Sam Johnson was unbelievable. What a save that was, because he knew exactly when Timo was going to pull the trigger. But there's something about Timo Werner at the moment. And yeah, he did score, which hopefully will build up his confidence. But something about his shooting, it's either on the floor, it like kind of shoots into the ground and kills any power that he's got, or it's kind of into the first man that's there, or like you said, he tried to go around the goalkeeper. Something that a player that has confidence will be able to do it. But if you look at Heung-min Son, what he did was he was reasonably far out, and just had the ability to just put it round the goalkeeper. You've got so much more of the goal to shoot at. I just don't really get like Timo Werner at the moment, and I hope he does get better. I don't dislike him. I think his work ethic is brilliant. But Harry, what's your thoughts on Werner, and what does he need to do to get more confidence?
I like him, and I stand by him because I see his numbers when he was at RB Leipzig. I liked him at the time, and you look. I spent some time the other day. You look at him through the youth academy, and he still ripped it up and scoring a lot of goals. So he is a goal scorer, but for me, he's a goal scorer that is lacking in that confidence. And Chelsea, for me, are to blame. And that's not being funny, my hatred or anything towards Chelsea, because they put it all on him at a time when they were struggling. He was the only number 9. And there's a lot of pressure on him to kind of play that role, and he's chucked straight into it. And obviously, since has never quite been the same. So I look at Werner and go, I think he's personally, I'd permanently sign him for a start. A lot of people don't think he should, but for 15-16 million, for me, it's a no-brainer. That's nothing. I'm not saying he should be at this team, if we get to finals, etc. But for me, it's good. I look at him and go, it's a good option off the bench. I don't know who you want to put this down to, whether the manager, coaching staff, or the players, but we don't utilise, for me, Werner in the right way and play to his kind of strengths. And I get you can't adapt for every player, but at little times, Man City was a prime example in the Cup, especially as we went out. The amount of runs that he made, and you're like, he's up against Walker, up against Ake, put the ball over the top. Wolves was the most frustrating one because we lost the game, and Craig Dawson he's a wise defender, but up there with Johnny Evans, who we saw in action at Manchester Derby. They're both the slowest defenders in the league. I mean, Royale when he plays there, but there's not many others. So he put the ball over the top. We just didn't do that. And there was just that, felt like a breakdown of communication. I know they haven't played with each other a lot. That's me as a manager or just a player. Ball over the top, straight away. Give Werner something to chase. Because even if he's unlikely to get there, I still give Werner a little fraction of a chance because I know he's paced and he backs himself to get there. One-on-one finishing, he needs to be improved on. I don't want him to be, he doesn't need to be scoring spectacular goals, but tap-ins, which he obviously scored, but one-on-ones like that, we know he has to be scoring. I'll give credit to the goalkeeper as you did, Luke, because you look at it, he knows what Werner's doing, and to be fair, most goalkeepers panic and give away a foul in that situation. However, Werner's body language and his eye contact is very clear what he was doing, whereas someone would have slotted that in the other corner. So he needs to work on that. But I like him, and I think he's been okay. But I think if his strengths were utilised, we'd be talking about a player with 5-6 goals already. That's the difference.
Yeah. Callum, what do you think? Do you agree with what Harry said about Timo Werner?
I think there's definitely merit to what H said. What I'm quite curious about is Werner's injury record, because Werner had quite a big injury at Leipzig before he came to us. That's why he's had limited game time. And then he was I think he was at Chelsea for nearly 2-3 years, including that loan spell as well. And he had quite considerable injuries within that time. So I wonder whether because there's no doubt in his pace. He's definitely got bags and bags of energy to do something, but it's whether something that he has to do where he can't pull the trigger effectively, like using Sessegnon as the example. Is there somewhere he can take the man on? Can he actually risk to go in one-on-one with a goalkeeper? Does he have to be a long-range shoot, taking long shots more further out instead of taking on the goalkeeper? Is he a trickster of a player? These are all questions that probably not a lot of fans, but at least I myself would like to know, where I don't know where his skill set lies now compared to the player that we saw who Chelsea were hoping was a 30 to 40 goal a year striker, because there's a whole different calibre. He'd only done it once and then he came to Chelsea and didn't do it. But for us, he's definitely got the aspect to it where he's got something about him to be a creative influence. And yeah, if he comes in as an option for us in the summer on a cheap deal where we can go, he's going to come in and get 10 assists, 7 or 8 goals, then you've got someone who's a good utility squad player. But you can't put all your hopes on Timo. You can't put all your hopes on any of these players. Right. There's definitely different aspects. And going back to where he tried to round the keeper, it's a conflict of interest where he's got all the confidence to run up there, but then it's like he just sees a glaze in front of him. He doesn't know whether to go left where he should have gone, or if he'd have shot it probably straight at Johnson or gone over, which we've seen in the past, he can do them. But he tries to be clever, whether he was thinking, this is my chance, I'm going to try and be a little bit Billy Big Bollocks and all that and try and do something special here and round Johnson. And all he does, he takes 2 steps and then just puts it straight into Johnson's halfway, if you get what I mean. So it's one of them where something's not right there. And I texted you yesterday and said, I feel sorry for poor Sod. I've just thought that he did everything right apart from that. And as soon as you see the video feeds from the stadium, from people on when they're up in I think he was facing the north stand or something like that. So it was all from south stand where all the photo videos are coming from, or it might be the other way round.
No, it's towards Paxton, I think he was facing.
Yeah. So literally you've got everyone in the stand behind him taking these videos, and you can see he navigates so well. He has all the energy, he's got all the swagger, and then as soon as you just see him go there, and just like, this could have been anyone else and they'd have probably scored it, not him. And you had to actually feel sorry for him because you heard all the bad commentary behind it, everyone going, he can't hit a barn door from 2 yards away and anything like that. And like Holly said, it was so good to actually see him do something after that for the first goal. But it's one of them where he's such an enigma of a player. I don't understand how you go from a £50 million player to how you are.
Confident.
Unless something's
I was just going to say, it all comes back to confidence. So you look at that Palace chance. For me, it's a case of he never looks composed. He looks like someone who's worried, and his touch just isn't good enough. And it takes it away from to what you want to do, and even in the end nearly brings the defender back into it. He spends that long, and that's a shame because he's so much quicker than the Palace defender. But his touch lets him down, and also he never looked composed. And when you've got that time, you've got to set yourself and decide what you're doing, and ignore any other distractions. But we've seen it with Richarlison, and even the likes of Harry Kane and the best strikers in the world. If you aren't scoring, or you go through that patch, I know Werner is a bit longer without scoring or scoring lots of goals, then it's in your mind. And the media get onto it, the press get onto it, and it's you can't ignore it. It's everywhere. So I think Werner, it's a case of I hope that he score. I don't think he's going to score another 7, 8, 9 goals this season. But I hope that he'd chip in with 2 or 3 maybe, and a few more assists. Now that confidence is there, and he's just believing in himself. I'd go to Werner. Look at your record that you've done at other clubs. You can score goals. Just back yourself to beat the goalkeeper, and I think that would change a lot of things. So you'd be surprised how far confidence goes in football.
Yeah, David Clark has said, do you actually know the success rate with one-on-ones? Because having watched a high level of football for 63 years, the scoring rate for one-on-ones is very low. So I don't see your argument. Look, what I would say as a counterpoint to that is you put Heung-min Son in that chance, 9 times out of 10, he scores. And I don't care what you say, the nicest possible way. Heung-min Son scores that chance 9 times out of 10. So why can't Timo Werner score it?
I don't think he's ever missed something like that.
Timo Werner, you just put it, as you say, you put it down to confidence. And that's up to the coaching staff to be able to try and get that out of him. Because unfortunately, if they can't get that confidence out of him, then he won't have a place in this team, unfortunately. But the way I look at the signing of Timo Werner, or the permanent signing is, and forgive me for this, but I would sell Brian Hill. You'd get 15, 20 million for him and just buy Timo Werner. Then it's a nothing deal. You don't pay anything out. And I think Timo Werner is a better player than Brian Hill. I think we've seen enough of Brian Hill to know that, unfortunately, I don't think he's going to work in this team myself. Barney just quickly said, a lot of it's down to confidence. See it with many players, not just Spurs, other clubs, my own club. Confidence breeds confidence. Definitely. Right. Let's move on before we finish up, and let's have a talk about the next game against Aston Villa. Now, if it wasn't a really important game before, it's even more important now. This is the race for top 4. This is the match that could decide who gets top 4 this season. It's a real shame that they got a late winner against Luton. But what that shows, and what shows in the first game that we played against Villa this season, is that they can be got at. And, if we were better on the day, we should have beat them. So I'm feeling confident in that. But also, if Spurs start as sloppy as we have been, I'm also not so confident, if you get what I mean. Callum, how are you feeling in the lead up to next weekend's game against Villa?
That is a question that I was hoping you weren't going to ask me.
It's a Tottenham podcast, and this is our next game, and you didn't want me to ask the only question that I probably was going to ask.
Yeah, because based on where we was all saying that the next 3 games that we had from last weekend were Palace, Villa, and then Fulham, and Palace was meant to be the easiest game out of it, and we made yesterday look so much more difficult than it had to be. So if you was asking that I felt confident yesterday, I was kind of feeling confident after yesterday's game and seeing how Villa did do. And how I feel about going to Villa Park, I'm probably gonna shit a brick, and I will send that brick to you in Scotland if you want it, mate, and all that. In all honesty, I am so unconfident about. I've probably got the same confidence as Werner at the moment. Let's put it that way. My confidence level is low, like his, because just no matter if Villa are down and out. They still somehow managed to scrape it through. And don't get me wrong, don't take anything away from Luton. Luton played brilliantly yesterday. They're playing like a team that actually wants to belong in the Premier League compared to Burnley and Sheffield United. But Villa just had a lapse with them yesterday. I think if we go up there and play anywhere near the way that we did for the first 60 minutes yesterday, we're going to get rinsed out completely. And Dave and myself were both saying about it a couple of shows ago that we was expecting a pasting. Next weekend could be that pasting. That's what I'm afraid of. And I think that will bring a lot of Spurs fans back down to the level saying, we're not ready for top four. And I'm honestly going to say that we are not ready yet. We're 6 to 8 months into a period, and anyone saying that will be disappointed if we don't get top four this year is talking out their arse. Let's put it that way, mate.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I see Harry was, nodding along to a lot of what you were saying, about the game next weekend. I think that they're beatable. I think that, yes, you're right. It depends on which Spurs decide they want to turn up and play in this game. Do we want to be the Spurs that can beat the majority of teams in this league, or do we want to be the team that struggles? Now, the majority of our games that we've struggled in, Harry, have been when we play in low block teams. Now, I don't believe Villa will necessarily play like that, but knowing Unai Emery, and he is a very clever manager. Contrary to what a lot of Arsenal fans thought about him, he could end up saying, do you know what, to his Villa team, this is the best way of beating Spurs. We have our wide, fast players. We could even play to that if we needed to. So how do you think it's going to go?
Well, I'm with Callum. I think Callum said a lot of things that are true there, if not everything. I'm not looking forward to it. I look at some of our games coming up, and as Callum says, for me, 1 or 2 times till the end of the season, whether we like it or not, I think we're due for a battering. Chelsea for me doesn't count because of the way we played in the situation in the game. So really, let's be honest here, we haven't really faced a batter. Brighton was the closest to that, and then we could have got a point on another day in that second half. So for me, we're due a battering. I just hope it's not like Arsenal at home or Chelsea, West Ham away. I just hope it's not them. It shouldn't be them. I'm dreading it at this moment in time. But what is a positive thing? Is we saw Jacob Ramsey come off against Luton, and I look at Ramsey and go, you can play the 10, you can play the 6, you can play the 8, you can play on the left. So he's someone that can fill a lot of positions. And Villa have been lucky, let's be honest, through injuries. A lot of clubs you see it have been unlucky. I think the added on time has a huge part to play in that. Congestion of fixtures, another. The double game weeks, you see more than we usually do. Villa have kind of got away with that. But what I like about this Villa team, and you can't say it about a lot of teams, and certainly not Tottenham, is that when it looks like they're down and out, that they find a way. Like for me, in that Luton situation with Tottenham, we go to 2-2. We draw that game 2-2, or even worse, we lose 3-2. We've seen it with West Ham, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, completely different manager, I know, under Mourinho, where we're 3-0 up, cruising, misplaced pass goes out of play, and we draw the game 3-3. That is an extreme scenario, but that is the perfect, for me, kind of situation that often happens. And that does worry me. So I look at Villa versus Sheffield United at home, where they were awful and really struggled to break down Sheffield United. Sheffield United got that goal, but still Villa got that equaliser. Whereas I look at us and go, I don't think you would have. So at this moment in time, I'm not looking forward to it. So bring it on, in other words.
I do get you.
Can I just add something? Something just on the back of what H was saying? Going on probably when we got beaten by Chelsea, I actually think that's the last time we saw Ange Ball properly integrated and played properly. I don't think this is the Ange Ball that Ange wants to be playing. He's making the most of a bad situation at the moment, and we always knew that we weren't going to see it all the time. But the way that we are, Villa are playing like prime Ange Ball, how he wants to play it. Fast attacking movement, scoring lots of goals. Doesn't matter if you concede a few, you score more. It's like how when Klopp was doing it as well, and a couple of years ago when he first came in. And I honestly don't think this is what Ange wants to be playing at the moment. I think this is a mentality issue where we are at the moment, because he's probably saying to them, no, you've got to go and score goals. Don't sit back and do all this crap. It's about fast-paced football. We're not playing that at the moment. None of it's fast-paced apart from about 15 minutes out of 90. And if we do that against Villa, well, Villa can do that for the other 75 minutes and they'll kill us in that. So that's the risk that we need to press them all the way through as well, not take any of these stupid decisions that we seem to take on there. And no offence, Jay, but I would drag us in nowhere near the starting lineup at the moment. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's difficult because I agree with you. I think that we're playing far too slow to be playing Ange Postecoglou football. We're not, if you watch his Celtic team, as soon as the ball went out of play, it was back in straight away. They played with fast, high tempo games, and maybe, as you say, maybe it is a mentality thing. I'm not sure. Maybe he's adjusting to how the Premier League works. I don't know, but look, he isn't doing too bad right at this moment in time. Right, before we finish up, I'll just read out Jay's comment. He said Villa are a good side, but would be good to get a result, but I can't see us getting a result at Villa Park. I would hope Porro is back so that we can create more chances. Right, very quickly in the chat, I've given you a 2-minute warning to get your score predictions in while we talk FPL. So get your score predictions in the chat for the Villa game, and we'll read as many out as we can. I will also ask Dave and Winnie if they are going to give us the score predictions. But let's talk a little bit about FPL. Now, not doing too good in FPL, nor are you. So, I'll tell you who is doing good. Shan Mohit is top of the league. They've gone back ahead of Dave, 1,581 points. Dave is second on 1,573 points, and then we've got Al Malone. Lots of other people. The next host is Winnie, who is in 8th place, and he's got 1,455 points. I am next with 1,440 points. Then we have to keep scrolling until we find Mr. Scarf, who's currently in 14th place on 1,300 points. Callum, you're not far behind, lad.
No,
1,200 points. So Callum, who was rock bottom for a long time, 1,200 points, is only 100 points away from catching up with Harry Scarf. So it is all to play for.
Eat your heart out, H. Eat your heart out. I'm coming for you, mate.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I think that for me, this is the first year of FPL, and it took me ages to find out that the points and that, etc. So I look at, for me, the gap's doubled in a couple of weeks to where Luke and Winnie are, and that's because the points are spent on transfers. And what annoys me, Callum, is most of them, Adebayo for Luton was one, and he's injured. I brought him in for the double game week. I done exactly the same with Hoyland, injured. I took Watkins out. Bad decision. He's back in next week. So obviously, we're going to leak a goal, and I think Watkins is going to score. So,
fair enough. Right, guys, I'll give you 2 seconds to get your score predictions in your head while I read out some of the score predictions in the chat. So, Barney has said tough game, 1-1.
I'll take that.
I think. Jay has said respect your opinion, Callum, and Jay has said 2-2. Tough game, so both have gone for a draw. Mr. Scarf, I'll start with you. What is your score prediction?
I think we're going to put a good fight up, but I don't think we'll take our chances. I think Villa will. I think ultimately, Villa will do what you said. I think they have very little possession. They'll be very, very clinical. Watkins, 2 or 3 chances, 2 goals. Villa win 2-1.
2-1 Villa. Callum, what's your score prediction for the Villa game?
I'm like H. I think there's going to be goals in it, so I'm going to say 3-2 Villa. 3-2 Villa.
3-2 Villa. Do you know what? I haven't told anyone this, but my dad's a Villa fan. He never ever watches. I say a Villa fan, like it's a very loose term. Like he never ever watches football. But I guarantee you, he watches the bloody football when they're playing us. I will always receive a text message from him at some point.
One of my best mates is a Villa fan, so I know that if he's going to be going to it, and literally I know I will either get a TikTok video or I will get a Snapchat video or a WhatsApp saying eat your heart out or something like that, and I'll just be like, I haven't spoken to you in 6 months, but yeah, thanks for the message. Cheers for that. He's a dick.
I'm torn, people. I'm torn between a draw or a Spurs win.
Oh God, don't no.
Stop it. Go for a Spurs win. We want to catch you up.
I know that's the problem, right? Do I play it tactically or do I do what I should do, which is go with my heart?
I've learned not to be nice anymore with FPL. Just bring in the Arsenal players. They're doing all right at the moment. I don't like it.
I'm going for it. 2-0 Spurs clean sheet away.
Yeah, H, I think if you bring in any Arsenal, City or Liverpool players in, you'll probably be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. 2-0 Spurs and a clean sheet at Villa Park. What are you smoking? I'm not going to keep a clean sheet.
Jesus.
And, to steal it from a well-known TV show on that bombshell, we might as well end up for this week. But, not to forget, we'll be back next week, every week at Sunday.
Dave's gone for 1-1.
Oh, has he? Oh, I'll write that down. 1-1.
Good draw.
Every Sunday.
Dave cannot change his decision when the lineup gets released next weekend. We will emphasise that and put it just in a disclaimer. Dave, no changing scores. It's final now, mate.
Non-negotiable.
Exactly. But we will be back next week and every Sunday at 7 p.m. over on YouTube. If you listen on any podcast platform, make sure you leave us a review and make sure you follow us as well, because all of that does help us reach out to other people, just like if you subscribe and also like this video as well. So if you're watching still now, there's at least 10 of you watching, everybody go and click the like button on the video. This will help it reach more people. We won't be back this Tuesday for a FIFA show, but we'll be back the following week with Winnie and Kirk and potentially a couple of extra people who I'm working on trying to get. But Mr. Scarf, how can everyone find you?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. You can find me there, Harry Scarf 22, my channel, Scarfy Spurs. So we've got the weekly live show tomorrow, 7:45 p.m. I'll be joined by one of the guests, Billy T, obviously very popular on Twitter or X now it's called, as we dissect that Palace win, which I think we made quite hard work of, and also we'll be previewing Aston Villa. So it should be a good one. I haven't been very well recently, so there hasn't been, content every single day, let's say. I've got interview Gary Stevens coming in the next few weeks. We've had technical issues today. He's all the way over in Thailand, so I think the technical issues should have been expected. So we'll get that out at some point. But yeah, thank you very much for having me again.
No problem, mate. And Callum, good to see you in your glasses. Now, actually, drop a bomb on everybody now. Next week, we will have the first ever Callum's Youth Academy, where he will be talking about one player each week, giving a deep dive into them. So get your comments in the comment section and let us know who you want to talk about next week. But Callum, how can everyone find you?
As always, mate, Callum Stubbs 97 on Twitter. And if people want to DM me or DM the podcast, I'll say up until probably Wednesday, Thursday, if people choose a couple of players they want me to look at, and I'll sort of accumulate them in an order where it means that the most from that show gets picked, and then we go from there over it, and it gives me a couple of days to research it. But obviously, like H, I've been a little bit rough the last couple of days and all that, so the aim was to do it tonight, but I've I just didn't get a chance to and all that. But no, it'd be good to get everyone's thoughts and views on it. And obviously, like H, he's got his show. So if you go and give H a show, give H a follow as well on his stuff, and obviously go and bother Luke and all that whenever we play the FIFA streams as well. Give him a load of stick like I do, because I'm going to be banned from the FIFA stream now. If I keep giving it, I'll only be allowed on a couple of weeks at a time, and then I have to leave him alone because he may cry. You never know, he may cry. Look at him, he's a very sensitive person. But no, it's been great to be on with both of you as always, mates. Thanks for having me back on.
No problem at all. And you can follow me, Luke_Park Lane. But more importantly, go follow everybody else, and also make sure you are subscribing to the channel. As I said, we'll be back next week to talk about the Aston Villa game, and we're back in 2 weeks' time to do a bit more FIFA. But until then, have a good night, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on,
Spurs.
you.